Facebook and YouTube. All our meetings going forward are going to be that way. So, hi Jim.
How do you know?
While you're up, let's go ahead and do the pledge. Yes, pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you all. Please call the roll.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Lack?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Zilli? Mayor Cannon?
Here.
Miss Clancy?
All right, approval of the minutes for July 25th.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Lack?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Cannon?
Yes. Payment of claims. Do we have any questions on the claims? Any concern?
What's the American Gate entry system?
Colin?
Is that in the general or allocation?
General. Second one from the bottom of general.
The one's American.
Mag box on 5 gates.
We believe that's the police department gate. Police
Oh,
department gate.
yep. So the police department gate broke, and the only option was to replace it. And that was one of the big electronic gates.
Since this is their building, that's, or our building, we have to, we don't get that. Any other questions about the claim? Do we have a motion to accept? We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Lack?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Cannon?
Yes. Staff report.
Good evening, everybody. Very briefly here, if you noticed in the Dropbox, there's a draft 2020 budget in there for you. And so it's there for you to comment and provide any feedback to me before we finalize this budget here for next year. You can also, on that document, see where we're at here for this year. In order to get ourselves in the positive here for this year, we got to do some substantial cuts to some of the existing services that we can hold off on for a few years. We were doing a lot of design work that I think, without a construction funded source at the moment, we're going to delay some of the design that we're working on for a couple of items. Some of the big projects we're working on is we have a match for the Event Fishing Blend project here for next year, partly paid for this year as well. That's going to be a reconstruction of the Event Fishing Blend softball area complex. That's partly a grant that Jenny received over at the Park Department, so congrats to her on that. The other match we were providing towards the Park Department was for the Marquette Trail design and towards the construction from a DNR grant. So the Marquette Trail, in this case, will go from Ameriplex all the way to Burns Harbor once they complete their trail. So a big time trail section for Northwest Indiana, and it's something that we all need to have our eye on because it's going to be great for tourism, it'll be great for residents who want to get to the lake, and the next big leap will be getting a trail connection directly towards the lakefront park. So some big projects here in the works. You'll also notice a couple of charts in there for the general fund and the allocation area fund. Right now, we've been trending operationally for the general fund. Our expenditures have been exceeding our revenue in that case. And the reason that is because we have the police department that we help maintain now. We have the fire department. We have Founders Square. We have all these new items that we have to, or all these new amenities and buildings we have to maintain. And then we have to consider that. So we'll need to either start reducing our costs in the general fund or find alternative funding sources. In this case, land sales help us out in that case. This year, we have 2 pending land sales right now that have put us in the positive for this year. And then lastly, for the TIF fund, you can see that with that temp loan from the city here, that helped us out in May, and we're expected to have a nice balance in there of about 3.3 million or so. And you asked, why do we have a balance at the end of the year of 3.3 million? Well, in order to avoid this temp loan situation because of cash flow distribution issues from the county, we only get 2 distributions a year, but we have expenditures throughout the year, right? So we need about $2.8 million in January to pay our bonds. And so we need to make sure we have it in near 3 million as much as possible to pay our bonds right away in January. And then enough for operating, or enough for capital expenditures for a few months until June. So we need to try to hold on to that $3.4 million mark for end of year balance. So with that, I will answer any questions about the budget or anything else.
The 21st Century Education Grant for the school, it never came to us with the grant request.
That'll be forthcoming. That'll be forthcoming. And we're going to look back and see what we actually approved at that meeting, because it was unclear, we couldn't recall if we actually approved them to move forward with it, or if it was going to be an application scenario just to be processed through the submitting reimbursements towards the RDC for approval. So we'll work that out, and we'll either, if we need more approvals, we'll bring it to you next month. I'll get with Brett. I believe we have to have a resolution every year for that in particular, so that's part of the answer. Yep, so we'll have a resolution next month for that distribution.
Okay.
And then the only thing I'll mention is the open air pavilion is looking real nice. If you have anything over there to check it out, it's looking great. We still have some minor detail work to do out there. Shane did a great job with the landscaping with some native plants. And man, the nice native plants in August is great because they're flowering, and it looks pretty phenomenal. We still have some ways to go with with the grass to come in, because we seeded in August, and it was a dry period during that time. So we'll probably do some follow-ups on it and make sure the grass comes in.
Do we have like a grand opening or anything?
Grand opening is September 3rd. In fact, the invitations are about to go out.
September 4th.
Oh, September 4th, sorry.
Yes.
Invitations are about to go out for that grand opening. We're also having a sort of a staff picnic associated with that as well, so it'll be a nice fun day for everybody out there at the pavilion.
Just FYI, I talked to Shale before the meeting, our guy is out there on the gutters right now.
Okay.
And he knows we're pushing to have that 2 men at least done for the grand opening. So we may have to, he's got a lift runner, and we may have to touch up some grass or something when he gets done out there. So
Very good.
I'll be kind of running out there, keeping an eye on him and making sure they're on schedule to be out of there right before we're moved down to the other end.
And I'll be adding an item under other business. There was a change order that was provided when we had our construction manager several months ago. It was a small change order, but it was never brought before the board and the work was done. So this was, I believe it's $2,500. I have it, but I'll bring it up under other business, and we'll ask to get that taken care of as well. That's for the sheething and the insulation work. Yeah.
You know, we've had some, there's some issues out there with some toilets and stuff that should be covered under warranty work, or who's handling that?
I've had Terry replace 2 of the toilets already.
Right.
Because according to Gary, it was all part of the phase 2.
I'm not talking about the ones that were damaged from winter. We've got issues with like some hand washer stuff that isn't working, that he's ordered parts that it's been, I talked to him, and we need to look and see, that should be warranted from, you should have some warranty on that stuff from the owner.
Terry called the distributor directly, and they said it is in fact not covered. They're not going to warranty it. The parts in particular that need to be replaced, we're not covered under the warranty, some sort of sensors. So I had Terry, he's pricing out a couple of new sink units to replace these 2.
Yeah.
So, and this is
You've looked into it.
and part of the issue we ran into is we didn't have water access to the building when they installed the plumbing, so they couldn't test any of the. And so when we tested it here this summer, some of the units were not working properly, and it's a darn shame.
We looked into it, so we tried.
Right. I was gonna try to end on a happier note there, but let's say the flowers are beautiful.
The
Go
happy
check
note
it
is
out.
happy note, they're getting fixed, so we'll get them all working.
Well,
John?
I don't really have anything. The only thing is, under old business will be the
report on the demolition quotes.
Okay, well.
If you'd like me to go?
Yep.
I
Yep,
will.
I don't think we have
Uh,
to understand.
You opened quotes at your last meeting, there were two, one from Handy Services for $50,778, one from Acton Contracting for $137,225. You, the staff, the authority to move forward, if it made sense to go with the low quote from Hamity. I did speak with Hamity and informed them of what their number was in relation to the other one. They thought through it and said they must have missed something in their bid. And they thought they knew what that was. And then Greg Sikowski and Colin and I also reviewed the bids. And the Hamity bid is actually missing the bond that was required to be submitted with the quote. So at this point, we recommend that the quotes be rejected, and that, subject to funding being available, when Colin tells me, we go back out and try this process again. So in essence, the low bid was basically too low, and
Too good to be true.
too good to be true. And so the recommendation is to reject both of the quotes. And when Colin gives us the go, we'll go through the process again.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we reject the bids and proceed to rebid when it's appropriate.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Lack?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Cannon?
Yes. New business, the National Park Service Cooperative Fire Management Agreement.
Jenny Orsburn brought this to me, and she was in communication with the National Park Service. If you're not aware of it, every year you might see a lot of smoke in the air. It comes fall time. They do prescribed burns, which keep down the invasive species in the native areas. It just so happens that we have one of the best native areas next to the open air pavilion. And it was part of a previous burn, and they want to include it as part of their future burns here for the next few years. Our property is adjacent to theirs, so they're already going to be there. This is great. There's no cost to us, but we get someone to manage the invasive species on our property, and we do our due diligence by working with our neighbor who manages these native plants so well. So this is to approve this particular property for prescribed burns conducted by the Park Service.
I have a question on item 5, page 2. It says the park's going to notify the commission at least 24 hours prior to a burn. What if someone has that home rented?
Yep, that is a great consideration. Now that we have the option of renting that facility, that needs to be considered, absolutely. So I think what we'll do is we'll go back to the Park Service and recommend a change order. What do we think is ideal for if someone's going to be renting the facility? When we need notice. So I think at least, so more than 24 hours, at least 48 hours, I would say, prior to. There's sort of a lingering stench from a prescribed burn within a few days after. It depends on, and if there's a north wind, it could be pretty sneaky over there. So I'd say at least 48 hours, notice should be required there.
Is that what you're thinking, Greg?
Or what if they can give a 72-hour notice? You have a hall rented on a Friday, you can't move it.
Absolutely. I think so. And what we can do is also send them the schedule every time we rent it out. We can send them the schedule during the period in which they say they may be burning, and that way, eventually, they can avoid some of those days as well. So we'll run through a few options with the Park Service in coordination with the Park Department. In the end, the Park Department should be included in that decision in terms of timing, since they can make the rentals.
So then the park department's going to pay for all of this?
Sorry.
They will pay for all the burns?
There's no cost associated to the city at all. The Park Service is already going to be burning out there. They're not charging us for these scrap burns. But it's essentially free management for our land in this case. It's a pretty darn good deal. So if you haven't been out there to see that burn, this would be a great opportunity for us to go see it in action, actually. And it's an interesting process.
So
When
Greg,
they do that, it like the whole marina, you can't even walk around.
Yeah, that's right, if you go to Lakefront Park, you can avoid the
So,
smoke.
like to Greg's point here, if we don't have any control over when they're going to do these burns, that's a problem. And looking at this contract, once we sign this, they can do whatever they want.
I wouldn't want to enter into an agreement with them without it being itemized.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't disagree with that decision because in the end, even 3 days notice may not be, for them, the Park Service, if they schedule a burn, a lot of times they might cancel it because of the wind, right? It's too strong or there's rain, and they might do it again directly the next day. And they would do that directly the next day that's available because they would have crews come from Michigan and Wisconsin and other national park areas likely to come help with this prescribed burn, so they have people there. So in that case, this is going to facilitate, we're going to have to have a discussion with them about the path that enters notice for this. I think it's a great point.
So Commissioner Lackwood, maybe we just have Attorney Sapkowski look over this, we can talk about it internally, and we'll table it at this point, that'd be good, and then we'll bring it up next month. They don't have to have an answer today.
I don't have the answer to that question.
I guess you have to wait until we approve the contract.
Schedule of the burn needs to be mutually agreed upon.
Yeah.
We have to have some say in it.
But yeah, we'll work internally on that.
Okay.
Bring it back to you all, how's that sound?
Motion table.
Second. We have a motion to table the fire management agreement with the national parks, and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Tom. Good catch, Mr. Laxman. That's why we have you, man. Real estate matters.
We have no items under this agenda item for today. However, I'm even there's a placeholder, because normally we have something to approve. In this case, I'll mention that today is the first day that we can negotiate with all the parcels on the Melton Road property. So we went through the process of the 5440 Melton Road with the Gergen property. They public notice, and now there was a 30-day waiting period after we didn't get any bids in. So now we can actually negotiate the sale of that property and include it in as part of that 12 acres and work out a deal with someone. Because before we had to wait, we couldn't make separate deals if we wanted to sell all 12 acres, for example. So this, we're in discussions right now with 3 different companies that have contacted us regarding that property, and some opportunities there.
Great news. Great news. Any other business? I know we have someone here that's going to present us a beautiful ending to our meeting.
Just one item, which is
Yes.
the change order for the open air pavilion
Sorry.
for $2,449. This is for insulation in the exterior wall. Steve and his guys had noticed that it wasn't included as part of the original project and recommended its inclusion. Once again, this was completed, approved by our last project manager, who's no longer with us, and this just crossed my desk here this week. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the installation of the installation.
Something like that.
Yeah. Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Now, Shane, you are up. I believe it's the portable beautification basket and planter project.
Yeah, I have been working with the mayor and the other members on the beautification, and I brought this to you to kind of give you an idea. I went to different cities to kind of look what they're doing. The baskets, I think, are, a lot of people have, that I've also went downtown and talked to people at Founders Square and asked them what they were thinking. A lot of people state that it makes them feel homey. It makes them feel, it makes them happy when they see these flowers. Anyway, I had an idea, well, all of us had an idea about having some of these baskets installed, maybe taking a test run. At the back of the thing, you'll see that the cost would be $263 per basket. Now, that would be for the actual purchase of the basket, which is guaranteed for 10 years. The soil put into the basket, and then the $45 would be for me to plant them and maintain them. Now, I would actually grow the baskets until weather broke, and then we would, install them or have them hanging out in Congress Square, amphitheater, that kind of an idea. And then I am trying to work with the street department, Randy Reeder, on getting a quote to see what it would be for them to maintain them, if they were to water them, or, but as I have been talking to other companies, Holbert actually has, a grower that does the exact same thing, and then they take care of them, their department, their park department takes care of them. Valpo actually bids that work out. But I was thinking about maybe we could do something with the baskets with the banner, that I could get some type of, I could get some type of sponsorship. Maybe we went to Myers, we went to somebody, and then we could get a banner. So each person that sponsored these baskets, they would have their name underneath that basket, and then maybe we could move forward and doing something like that down Central Avenue.
So the beautification committee, I put together realtors, residents, Shay, some staff members, have come up with some priorities, and this was one of the priorities. Shay was also going to give us another presentation on number 2 priority, and we kind of want to hold off on that until we maybe have some answers about Wolf Creek Road. So
Yes.
we'll wait on that a little bit. But, so Shay, if you would kind of walk through, I think here on your third page in on the Founders Square.
And we have 2 different options. There's brackets that can be installed on the sides of the pillars, and then we have brackets that can be installed on the flagpoles. So we could do, a bracket on each side of those pillars, and then have a basket hanging there as well. I just think that, again, like I said, I have talked to so many people about that, and I also put in there flower pots, if that could be an option as well. We had a couple flower pots that were put down there for beautification, and I think that this would be a great sample area to see how well it works. If it is, we realize that it's cost prohibitive, then we know. We're doing it on a small scale, but I think it would be a great chance for us to be able to see how it works. And like I said, I went to city to city to city to ask them, how are you doing this? What are you doing? How are you making sure that, and if you look at the Holbert baskets, those baskets, and this is the similar situation, or the similar basket that we're looking at. I mean, you're looking at a 22-inch basket, and then imagine when they're growing, how profound they would be. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And again, like I said, I would like to try to find some type of sponsorship. Each person would pay X amount of dollars, and that would be their basket. And then we would put up our, some type of information. If we did pots and we had sponsorships, we could put their name on the pot, saying that they sponsored the pot for that year.
So with our budget constraints from the RDC, I think we're moving toward the sponsorship process at this point. Shay would like to get something that she could test here this fall, see how fall. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to do that because I would like to go to, say, Menards. I would like to go to Myers and say, look, this is what we're doing, and you have that opportunity to have your banner, your name, and so that they can actually see the product. And they know in Founders Square, think about it, Friday night, movie night, all of those things, to have their banner there. And then it's like a win-win situation. We get the money to have it taken care of, and then they get the advertisement.
Be approached like the Chamber of Commerce, to see if they're interested in working together to find sponsorship.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Member,
yes.
There's a member from the
Yes.
chamber on the beautification
Yes.
committee, yes.
What are we looking to do today?
How many do we want to have?
I was looking at maybe like 10. I mean, I would take as many as I would be allowed to have, but this is what I would like to do, and I would like to get started immediately, because I would like to get them, and I would like to get them up and going, so that we can get this started.
This winter, right?
Well, actually, what I'd like to do is, I would like to have these baskets now and do more of a fall thing. I still have potato vines and other things like that, but I would like to do some type, just so that they're out and about, and
We're trying to get some up.
Yeah,
Now.
fall.
yes,
Fall forward, Jim.
I would like tomorrow.
In and around Founders Square.
Correct. An amphitheater in that area, yeah, and then that way I can say, this is an example, and this is our way to sell, so that they can actually see, and then, we can make a package that states or shows a banner and get a pack.
Let's go back to your brackets and hang, where you're gonna hang these things. I just say I'm not really in favor of putting brackets on our pillars out there.
Okay.
I mean, I think it'd be better to go on our light poles, something that's.
I would not have
Those pillars, you can go start mounting stuff to that brickwork and stuff like that. I don't think we want to color, I don't think we want, I don't mean
We're
color,
with you.
but I
Right.
don't think we want stuff on those pillars.
We're with you.
They're kind of their own standalone thing.
Yep, it was just an option that when I was talking to Earthway, and if you see, Earthway has done for, I mean, Notre Dame, they do amazing work, that the product that I'm looking to hope that we can purchase. You know, they've done amazing work, and it just happens to be that that bracket is a choice. It doesn't mean that we have to use it, we can definitely just do poles, I would be perfectly fine with that, it's just an option for you guys.
Was it 10 poles we decided?
Yeah, we could do 10 poles,
10
yes.
poles, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that would be an option, and then so you can actually see and get the feel of it as well. And now you have to understand that when you're looking at like the potato lines, which, you know, it's going to be a grand gesture, but in the spring, when we see them again, they're gonna be a very grand gesture, because they're gonna have that time. I will start them in January in the hothouses, and then by the time in April and May, when it's safe, we'll be able to put them out, and then they will have that growth time, so they will be substantial by that time.
So the total would be, if we did 10 poles, 10 brackets, 10 pots.
It would be
10
like a 2,000, what is it?
$2,630.
Correct.
Motion to approve $2,630 to beautify our Founder's Square area.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is that, we gonna be okay?
Well, I'm not a voting member, so.
All right.
Did you have concerns or anything you wanted to ask me?
Well, we're just,
Well, no, well, I see the presentation on the general fund and our need to reduce our operating
Oh.
expenditures, so, you know, keep that in mind.
And eventually too, the thing is that I would like to have those baskets that we have sponsored. And
Yeah.
then that money could be, if it does work, that money could be given back. I mean, you know what I mean, if we have that option and we start getting those, and that would be something, like I said, I wanna get the baskets started, get them out, and then put a package together. Maybe come back next month and let you know, this is what we looked at, we want X amount of dollars per basket. And
Sure.
then this is the banner, and then we know the cost associated with it, and we start there.
yeah, I think Greg shook his head, it's okay to repay the redevelopment.
Well, I think if we
Business-
sponsor, you know
yeah,
what I mean, if we
sure.
have somebody
I
in the
know if there
March
was a
comes in and
procedure
says,
on
hey,
it.
I'll give you $5,000, you know what I mean, and then they pick X, you know, they have so many or whatever they choose to do, so.
So we have a motion and a second, any more discussion? Please call roll.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Leff?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Cannon?
Yes. Thank you, Shay. So you bill us and we'll pay the bill.
Yeah, and then, again, like I said, I'll come back, I'll have a presentation with the manners and whatnot, and I'll let you know exactly how it goes in 1 month.
Yes. Thank you, good job. Beautification Committee will be very happy. Thank you, Commissioners. Any other business? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you all. Good job. Shay.